Good morning. This is Dylan Jovine with Behind the Markets. Happy Tuesday. Today's Tuesday, March 3rd. Today, I'd like to talk about what happens to the stock market in the 12 months following a war in the Middle East. And we're going to look at the Gulf War and the Iraqi War. We can also talk about the Libya intervention and ISIS, which are kind of little actions, really. But if you look at the Gulf War in January 1991, George H.W. Bush, Bush 41, the market rose 29.1% in the 12 months following the start of that war. If you look at March 2003, Operation Iraqi Freedom, Bush 43, George W. Bush, the market rose 27% in the 12 months following the start of that war. So what we see here in the Middle East is that the markets tend to rise following the start of the war, but that's a bit misleading because both of those presidents spent the year leading up to major combat operations getting the American public ready. They're on TV, they're going to Congress, famously, remember at the United Nations, Powell presenting, for example, the proof of the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. So the markets really sold off leading up to major combat operations because of uncertainty. And then the 12 months after that, they started to rise again when there was more clarity. So what does that tell you? The uncertainty phase, the market sold off. The clarity phase, they started to rise. The President Trump didn't really prepare the country for this. So I think that we're actually experiencing the uncertainty phase right now with the risk of this war widening. So I would be very careful and smart. Again, they should stop saying that we want regime change. They should start saying we want behavior change. Because at the end of the day, how do you get Iran? You got to think about what's happening there. All the generals are looking around, and you've got to get rid of the first layer, which it sounds like they did, the second layer, and maybe even the third layer of their command structure. What we really want to see is one of their generals basically say, all right, I'm going to raise my hand. I can do business with you. We don't need to be all aggressive with nuclear weapons, trying to export revolution everywhere. We're looking for basically somebody who could run that country. And I cannot even imagine it being democratic, at least now. I just don't see that. Usually you need an opposition leader for people to rally around for that to happen, someone who's built some credibility. So I guess my point is that we need to cut off the heads, basically the layers of command structure there. And maybe if you go down 3 or 4 layers, when you get to younger people, somebody who has command of a part of the military or Secret Service that really raises their hand and says, okay, we want to be Iran, but we don't want to be crazy Iran. Really sending the Houthis weapons to attack the Saudis, sending Hezbollah weapons to attack Israel. We just don't want to do that anymore. So anyway, my point is the market is likely, obviously, as it did yesterday, to sell off. And that also is going to be controlled by how wide the Strait of Hormuz gets. We now have air dominance, basically, over Iran. We're in a situation here where they can't really field troops because if you own the air, you can just take them out. You know, what do these people know? They know asymmetric warfare. So they would, tactically speaking, in military history, they would just slink into the population and start blowing up tanker ships like they're starting to do at the Strait of Hormuz, which is why the price of oil went up. So how does the defense sector and the energy sector do in the 12 months after a war starts? Believe it or not, the energy sector is a little odd. The Gulf War in 1991, the energy sector went down 31%, and that's because they were just pumping so much. They misunderstood how fast it would be to be over. In 2003, it went up 23%. So basically uneven, depending upon how much disruption there is in the market. The defense sector, specifically aerospace, the Gulf War went down 7.5% in the first month. So sometimes they sell off. Iraq War ended up going up 16.4%. And again, it depends on how much manufacturing of munitions and planes that happens over the following 12 months. You got to really be very careful. Remember, especially when you think of defense contracts, because defense contracts take years to fulfill, the real war profit, for lack of a better word, usually shows up in the 6 to 12 month window. Over multiple conflicts since 1990, the aerospace and defense industries basically averaged, we'll call it a 9.1% aggregate return in the 12 months following. Also, gold. How does gold do? You know, gold does really well, it turns out. Gulf War, 1991, gold was up 6.3% in the 12 months following. And of course, right after that, Iraq War up 15.7% in 2003 in the 12 months following the start of that conflict. Libya, it was up 23.4%. Isn't that amazing? And ISIS, it was down 2%. So gold is a first responder. It almost always spikes in the first 7 to 30 days of a Middle Eastern conflict. In 1991, it jumped 4% in a week, I remember. In 2003, it jumped 2%. Again, the 12-month outlook really depends on whether the war stays contained. Look, here's where we're at right now, okay? Like I said earlier, I don't see a Democrat, some big capital L liberal running Iran. They just don't have the power. Usually in situations like this, you need somebody who can control the military, but who's not an ideologue. And I suspect that there are a few layers of ideologues who are older revolutionary types or who are children of older revolutionary types that we got to chop off really before we get down to the younger generals, the younger kind of military people who actually can form a coalition. But you can bet your butt that Israel, Saudi Arabia, and American people are putting feelers out. And there are probably generals there who want to do business with us. But they're saying, look, you got to take out this guy first, that guy second, and that guy third for me to be able to rise up because I control these 2 battalions. So you got to take this guy out because he runs a secret service over here and he'll kidnap my family if I make a move. You got to take that guy out because he runs the Western armies and he'll attack me over there if I make a move to become the next leader of Iran. So you really got to take out those people. It's really like, pulling weeds. You got to really get in there and do that. And then you will hopefully find a general who, again, raises his hand, someone we could do business with. And sure, you pay lip service to democracy and all these other things, but someone we could do business with. Again, the president's got to get the messaging a little bit better here. It's not regime change. We don't want regime. We want behavior change. We want them to stop with a foreign policy, again, that attacks Saudi Arabia, that attacks Israel, that tries to get nuclear weapons, because you know what? When you have a country that screams death to America every 5 minutes, you can't let them get nuclear weapons. Come on. Remember, you got to take fanatics at their word. History has taught us this. Take fanatics at their word. True believers, take them at their word. When they scream death to America and they try to get a bigger gun, a nuclear weapon to do that, you can bet your butt they will figure out a way to put a nuclear weapon into a suitcase, and they will figure out a way to get that to a terrorist, and they will figure out a way to get that into a major American city. It's just not acceptable. We're not going to live in a world where some tin pot dictator holds a gun to our head. We're the United States of America. Not going to happen. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. Have a good day. I will see you tomorrow.